Okay, so let's look at your first topic. We're going to talk about classification, which is under diversity. When you comes to basically the first topic of your science, they usually will introduce you. We will usually introduce you whatever things that you have been experiencing for the last, ever since you are born. As you grow, you basically know you've been exploring around since baby. You have been looking at the things around you. The way you live your life, okay, there are certain things that works a certain ways. You start figuring out. And you basically, sometimes your mom along the way or your parents along the way has already explained to you why some things you can't touch. Some things they are not alive, some things are actually alive, and some are dangerous, some are not dangerous. These things along the way we learn. But as you go along, there are some much more complicated ones, which of course you need to study and get yourself educated to understand why they work this way. Okay, so when we talk about diversity, the only first thing that we know that exists on Earth is either dead or alive. Okay, so basically they're either non-living things or living things. Now, before I break them up, I'm going to show you a summarized version. Okay, basically you can copy down if you're fast enough, but if you're not, it's fine. I'm not sure if you're able to play back the recorded video later to refer, but if you can jot down, usually this lesson, I'm trying to squeeze in as much information during the 1.5 hours. So basically, for this topic, if you need extra notes or anything, just maybe let the consultant that you actually know to get through to me. I will send you the notes through email or something if you need extra notes. All right. Let me just share with you another screen. Just hold on a second. Yeah. Okay, it's just that I have to keep closing and opening. Okay, so when we talk about, now this is basically a summarized version to help you easier grab hold of this content. When you come to classification under diversity, there's only two things, non-living things. Let's look at non-living things first, okay? The characteristics that you need to know if you have not watched the video, but I would recommend you watch all your videos first. I mean, not all, the video that you are supposed to attend for that particular week before you attend my lesson, so that to help you expedite your understanding and learning of the topic, okay? Non-living things, they do not grow, they don't die, they're basically still stationary, okay? They don't need air, food, and water to survive, unlike the living things, all right? So you can't technically feed a table, water, food, they're just dead, okay? They used to be, table is actually furniture from the wood. So wood comes from trees. They are once alive, okay? So they can't move on its own, but they may be once alive. Like for example, table is from wood. Wood is from tree. Tree used to be alive. And basically humans are the ones that chop them down and make them into furnitures, okay? So these are the four main characteristics you need to take note. All right, these are the notes that I want you to actually jot it down in your notebook if you can. Okay, so some examples, you've got wood, ceramics, plastics, cotton, metal, rubber, glass, and wool. These are the main characteristics that will always ask you in this P3 topic. Okay, so they are basically 8 items. Can you make a guess? If you can look at the picture here, anyone, Aya and Lavinish, do you want to, who wants to, if you need to want to raise your hand, just raise your hand. I can actually see you, but only thing, Aya, I can't see your camera. Okay, so if you want to raise your hand to answer the question, just raise your hand. Can anyone tell me, Lavinish, I guess you put up your hand first. What is that item? Which category does it belong to? That jar? Okay, which material does it belong to? It's actually a very popular kind of humans like to make it, and very popular in China. So what kind of material does China use a lot to make all this jar pots, not really pots, or this vase, or what do you think? Which one?
Glass?
Yeah, the vase, basically where you put flowers in. Some people pronounce it a vase, some people pronounce it vase. So which category is this?
Glass?
Glass, are you sure?
Yeah.
Do you think it, okay, can you briefly describe what do you know about glass? How does it normally look like? And maybe if you feel it before, tell me, how do you think it feels like?
I've like never feel that type of glass before.
Okay, but I think if you have guessed it's glass, you will actually confident to tell me that you think that is breakable, right? So, okay, you are right. First, you're right. Basically, it's breakable. But second, you're also not really that accurate, correct? But it doesn't matter. Okay, the thing is, I want you to bring forward whether or not you're right or wrong. I want you to actually dare to answer. Okay, dare to give your opinion and be brave enough to actually voice out whatever that you think. Okay, now this is not technically a glass. Basically, it is breakable. It falls under the material ceramics. They are much thicker. Okay, they probably am a little tougher than glass, but still they are very breakable. Okay, they are actually made of ceramic, and ceramic consists a little bit of a thicker material of clay, where it takes some time to actually dry and harden. So I think basically since many thousand years ago, China, ancient people has been using these materials to make a
Is
lot
it
of
metal?
no, it's not metal, it's ceramics. Ceramics is another form of material that is actually thicker, and it's like if I'm not wrong, there is a bit of clay in it, but there's also other materials in it to actually mold that material into that ceramic into maybe different vase or jars or different kinds of pots and pans, or not pans, or cups. Okay. Oh, you're messaging. Sorry. Okay. I might when I'm teaching, since it's faster if I can hear your voice, and or you want to actually wave, I can see you on the camera. Okay, because sometimes when I teach, I don't check messages. So when you give me direct messages, I might not be able to uh kind of read fast enough. Okay. If not, I'm not sure whether you can screenshot on your camera the notes, but doesn't matter. If you really need the notes, you can tell the staff, one of the staff. I will just email you if you need to. Okay, so let's go on. The next one we're going to talk about is living things. All right, now of course characteristics will be totally different from non-living things. The three main things we know: they can live, basically they will also die. They will grow old, they will die, and they need air, food, and water to grow and survive. Right, since baby, you need food to actually help you grow bigger, taller, stronger. Okay, and of course, living things can move on its own, right? But the only thing is that depends fast or slow. For plants, you can see their movement is in the form of growing. Whether they grow tall, they grow thicker, but you can't really see that they are walking. Okay, so if you really do see that something is wrong, yeah. So plants can't walk on their own, they cannot fly, all right, but they can grow towards the sun, and you can see the direction where they are growing because they actually need the sunlight. Okay, so animals, basically living things, are in a much more bigger category. So they have much more variety compared to non-living things. Of course, non-living things, sometimes people invent, you fall under much more different categories. But in general, on Earth, unless you know some extraterrestrial alien from other planet starts to drop by, but other than that, what we know from Earth, basically we only have animals, we have plants, we do have very micro, very small organisms that we can't see with the naked eye, but it's always there. And that's also one of the reasons why we are always being told to actually keep ourselves clean, because usually smaller organisms, they exist in the form of parasites, fungi, bacteria, which we can't see, and sometimes most of the time they will cause us to fall sick. That's why we have happens to have COVID, and we have this pandemic for the last 3 years. I think when you're young now, you'll just get accustomed to it. Before the last 3 years, it's not been so not so serious with all the other bacteria that is already known. We already have antibiotics, we already have vaccination against them, but the latest one is the COVID. Okay, so they fall under fungi, they fall under all these smaller organisms where you have protozoa. Okay, it's a larger group of single cell organism. And of course, you have others, bacterial. Now, these pictures are magnified. Basically, they are actually being amplified through the microscope. So if you actually see them through the microscope, you see that they have very different shapes and sizes. Just a brief introduction. I will go through this along the way for the next few lessons. This is just a summarized version. Okay, quickly, basically smaller organisms, you have fungi. They are usually the decomposers of the earths, and they are made up by a fungi body called mycelium. Okay, there's just like a mesh of filaments. Basically, it's like a mold. Not mold. Fungi, they can exist in a mold form, but they can also exist in a mushroom form, where in a bigger version. Okay, yeast, mold, mushroom. Those mold that you find on a bread that you kept for too long, they are also considered as fungi. Okay, you can actually do this experiment. I think as you go along this year or next year, your teacher will also explain how to do it on your own if you want to at home. Okay, we'll go through this the next few lessons. Protozoa is a parasite, okay, but they are larger. You still need to see it through a microscope. Okay, Amobia, Parasium, okay, all these they are found in fresh water, salt water, or even in the soil. So sometimes when you do gardening or you actually mess around in the garden, please always make sure that you wash your hands. Does not mean that the green garden, basically they are nice, you're in nature and there's nothing around that harms you, even though you can't see it, you don't know. Okay, like basically my parents-in-law are Westerners and they're British. They are much more they have this mentality, oh, the garden is nice, nothing can harm them. And usually they allow the kids to play around, which I don't really feel safe, because there are small little microorganisms you can't see. And I will introduce you what is that can be really deadly, okay, that you can't see later on, which is very interesting. Okay, so the thing is that I don't let my girls, I have 2 daughters, I don't let them play, if they can play in the garden, but do not get in the mess with the mud or get your hands dirty, because it gets caught under your nails. And wash your hands every time after playing in the garden, all right, in the field or wherever. Okay, because you do have bacteria that comes onto your hands. You won't know, you can't see. Of course, next one, bacterial, another single cell organism. They're found everywhere. You may be surprised, but in extreme hot and cold places, you still will find them existing, very much alive in temperatures that we can't take, as much as 3,000 degrees, or even as cold as minus 100 and minus 130 or minus 200. They will still be around on top of the ice on the surface, or even at the surface of a molten lava vent. They are still existing around there. So we will go along. I will introduce you to that as well. There are 3 basic types. They're round, they're rod size, rod round, or spiral type. Okay, you will learn that the next few lessons. We will go into that. All right, so I'm gonna go on to our, hold on here. I'm switching. Okay, under classification, basically, I'm gonna start with a question. Hold on now, people coming in. Not sure if, all right, now that I've explained to you briefly, we will go through these questions along the way to see if you can answer. But along the questions, along the way, there are questions that are actually quite new. They will have certain things that I will input certain new information that will input. So let's just go on together. Those who want to try to answer, only the students, yeah. Audience, stay out first. All right.